Page 39, Marche Slav. 4/4 time, no sharps or flats. You think C major? Well, things are getting interesting. Look out. There's a little blurb at the bottom of the page trying to explain what's going on, and I'll just briefly touch on it. And that is, we've been dealing with major scales so far. A scale is also known as a mode, and we have various modes, all kinds of modes, lots of modes. You're just going to love them. For the most part, the only modes we use in most of my lessons are the major scale and the minor scale. You have a blues scale, I don't teach that. There's a jazz scale, I don't teach that really. There's various other scales. I just focus on the major and minor scales. I mean, when you really think about it, there's probably around 1,500 different scales worldwide, and all the different musical harmony systems, you know, there's blah. But out of those, there's only a few hundred that we deal with typically, and out of those few hundred, we're only dealing with there's 50 or so. I cover all the scales that I deal with in my scale videos. They're all there. C major has no sharps or flats. It's all the white keys. Well, for every major scale, there's a minor scale with the same signature. So the minor scale with no sharps or flats is A minor. This piece happens to be in A minor because it's a minor. The major and the minor sound different. So this is a major, the minor. They sound, they haven't, a minor has a more mysterious or a sadder or a melancholy feel to it, where a major is usually a happier feel. That's just the way they sound. Typically you can look at the last major or around there of the piece, and most pieces, not all, most pieces will end on their main chord for the key. And if we look at the last major here, it's this chord. That's an A minor chord. We have an A here, so and this E, I can put that here, so it comes to here. It's an A minor chord. Remember, dealing with chords, we're dealing with the names of the notes. They could be in any arrangement. It doesn't matter. Just briefly, we'll talk more about minors. You don't need to go do the minor scale yet if you, I mean, you can do the A minor scale if you want to. I do the harmonic minor, that's okay. I explain all that in the scale video. But you can hold off on minors. I like to hold off on minors until you're comfortable with the major scales. And then we go back and tackle the minors, in addition to always repeating the major scales. Once you start studying a scale, you're studying that scale from then on. Maybe not every day, but you'll every once in a while you'll come back and do that scale again. In Marche Slav, start with the right hand. Your little fingers on E here. And just get the notes and the fingering first. We'll come back and get the rhythm later. So we're here, then we have a D sharp, fourth finger, and then a C, B, and an A. That's a new note. 2 ledger lines below the treble clef is an A. C is 1 ledger line, and A is 2, and it's like this every other note. 3 ledger lines would be an F, 4 would be a D, 5, it just keeps going. You need to memorize this note though. 2 ledger lines is an A, just know it. You're going to get it enough, hopefully it won't be a problem. So you're here, and then the B, C, E. Make sure you know the names of all these notes. Second line, starts here. Second measure, now you have a G sharp. You see the note is below the second ledger line, and that would be the next note down here, except it has a sharp in front of it. So now it's here. And all we do is we just cross over, index finger, leave the thumb there because it's temporary. There, and get those. Eventually you want to get to where you can do that without looking at the key. You have to look at first. But once you get an idea of it and get a feel for it, you need to be able to do that without looking at the keyboard. Then you finish the second line here. Now notice the clef sign is changing for the upper staff. Now they're giving you bass clef. Okay, right hand, this third line down. Now we're in bass clef. 2 lines above the staff in bass clef is an E. We've already had that note. It's the same notes you've been playing. In fact, we're playing basically the same notes we played before, but now we're reading bass clef instead of treble. It's good practice. So you work out those notes, make sure you got them all. And then the fourth line down, second measure, you still got that G sharp. And now they give us the treble clef back. We're playing games here. And E, your hand isn't moving any, it's just your little finger's already on the E. It's just now you're reading treble clef. I don't know why they're switched clefs other than to show you that the clef sign can change at any time, and this gives you a chance of reading this melody in both clefs. It's a good practice. Otherwise, there's no point in changing clefs like this. And then the last line, last couple measures, you have an A and a C together, and then a B and a D together, and then the A and the C again. So it's here to here to here. Connect those if you can. It's a little tricky with fingers, but you need to be able to learn to do this, so just do it. You should go all the way up. Just make it an exit. And really, if you're going to do that, you should do it in both hands. You practice these things in both hands. So it doesn't matter what the notes are. So I can go here. This motion is common in piano, and you need to get where you can go slow at first, think about each one, take your time with it, then go back, and over time you'll get to where you can speed that up a little bit until it's doable, and that's what you're after. It just takes some time to get that. Something else to practice. Then once you have the notes and the fingerings, then you can add the rhythm. The rhythm's not hard, it's got some eighth notes in it. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 2, and 3, and 4, and... That's really about as complicated as the rhythm gets. For the left hand, we have these chords. You have an A and an E, and then an A and an F, and you're kind of going back and forth. I recommend when you get this kind of a pattern, you get into the habit, a style of fingering, where you play the first one with 5-2, not 5-1. You save the finger here. What you're going to do is use these two fingers for the top note. That's all. That comes in real handy, especially in faster pieces, so I don't recommend using thumb for both. Just this. Because once you have this position, you don't have to be looking at the left hand or concerned about it too much. Now, there's a few changes in the left hand. Let's go look at the second line, last measure. You're here, that's a D, E, play them at the same time, then a C, and then a B. And that takes you back down to what you were doing. Now, you use thumb on the E's on these. But then in the next line, when you get back to your pattern again, go back to second finger on the E. And then you get down to the bottom, last line. Here, you get melody for a little bit. D sharp, C, and you can use thumb on E's there. We're only using second finger on the E when we have that F also, that pattern where we go back and forth. Then we try and put the hands together slowly, because the left hand is playing on the off beats, what we call the off beats, the 2 and 4 beats a lot. So it's 1, 2, 3, and 4. So you have to watch the rest in the left hand to make sure you're playing the rest on the correct beat. Tricky. Now, we can add the articulation. That's the slurring and staccatos and the phrasing and all that. There's nothing to speak of for the left hand. So the left hand, you're basically just playing the notes. Hold them out their full value, just play the notes. The right hand, you got phrases here. Connect these, and then lift up between the phrases, just to lift up with a hand. It's like taking a breath. Then you get a rest. rest, well, there's your breath for you. And then the next line, go ahead and connect all these notes. And then at the end of the line, go ahead and lift up. It's the end of a phrase, sentence, and then lift up. So you silence, and then you're back what you were doing before. The fourth line down, connect the whole line together, and then the last line you connect those. Then put in some accents. If you look around, occasionally they sneak in an accent. Fourth line down, last measure. The first one, play it a little louder. I mean, you're loud anyway. I'll talk about dynamics in a minute, but and then the left hand gets an accent. Dynamics, it's forte at the beginning. That's the melody. So the left hand, keep it down. You have to decide what loud is. And then you come to have that decrescendo arrow. You get a little softer, not much. Don't come down very much. Just maybe a medium loud, if that. Then go back up to loud. Go ba-da-dum. There you're staying loud. And then in the next line, they say go up. I think they're missing a diminuendo at the end of the first line. I think you should come back down. Like so, because in the next line you got a crescendo, and you're not going to crescendo from loud. Don't go above loud. So you come back down to medium loud, and then go back up in the second line. Da-da, here, take those three notes. At the end of the line, come down. And you're loud again. Just all of a sudden you're loud again. And you do these crescendos and decrescendos. Practice those. And it's the melody you're practicing. Exaggerate them at first if you need to get a feel. And then in the fourth line, last measure, it's loud plus an accent. It's like almost a sforzando, which you haven't had yet. It's a serious. Then the last line, the left hand is sort of soft. It's like an echo. And now you're soft. Right hand is soft. Left hand's very soft. A little louder and soft. So it's ba-da. So practice the dynamics. Actually, what I think you should do is you get to know the piece and get comfortable with it. So you're not thinking about notes and rhythm and none of that. The phrasing and all that's automatic. And then you get into the music emotionally, and these dynamics are guidelines and suggestions. You feel these. You feel this loud. You feel it over time. The speed they're giving here is moderato. That's sort of an in-between speed. It's not fast or slow. You'll have to decide what moderato is for you. Think about marching, or slowly marching. If you think slaves doing their labor or whatever, it's so hard work. And practicing the piano is hard work and all that. That's the sort of the mood of the piece. It's not exactly a party piece. Let's try this out slowly to make sure we got the right notes and rhythms. I'm not going to do the dynamics or any of that. So I'll give us 4 counts. 1, 2, ready, go.